Really young. You've only known him for 6 months. Whoa. Whoa.
It always begins with whispers, doesn't it? Soft murmurs in the background of a family already broken. Christine had felt for years that something wasn't quite right. Robyn's expense accounts didn't seem to match the humble lifestyle she tended to depict in front of the lens. Designer handbags discreetly stashed out of sight, holidays that were a tad too over the top, and rumors of money flows that didn't compute when traced back to what she said. But no one ever dared question it, not openly. Christine, though, had spent too long in the twilight of half-truths. She had seen Robyn present herself as the devoted, poverty-stricken wife, the one bearing the burden of a family collapsing under its own inconsistency. But Christine wasn't going along with it anymore. There were too many stopped, in our tracks nighttime talks, too many papers that seemed to disappear. Too many times Robyn's gaze had strayed when the subject of finances was mentioned. It wasn't until a misplaced envelope found its way into Christine's hands that the threads started to come apart. She hadn't been searching for it, not initially. The envelope was pushed under the wrong door. A bank statement, not hers. She almost discarded it, assuming it was junk mail. But then she noticed the name, Robyn's name, and below that, a number. Christine stood there, her heart racing. 12 million. It wasn't possible, wasn't it? Christine sat down, rereading and rereading the figures. The account wasn't modest. It wasn't a few savings stashed away for rainy days. It was a fortune, a secret empire in open view, hidden behind layers of sensitively crafted stories. And then the pieces of the puzzle started to fall into place. For years, Christine had heard there wasn't enough. Enough to fix things, enough to be safe, enough for the children's future. The family had been made to get by on little, to decide with the shadow of lack looming over them. And here it was, $12 million, stashed away, stored behind Christine's back, stored behind everyone's back. The betrayal was not just in the quantity. It was in what it signified. It was in all the sacrifices Christine had made thinking that they were struggling. It was in every time she had gone without, to find out that Robyn had lived in a world of lies and deception. Christine sat amidst the papers laid out on the table, the gravity of it all weighing on her. She could sense her chest constricting as all the questions bombarded her mind. Where did the money come from? How long had Robyn kept it a secret? And most importantly, why? The fight wasn't inevitable. Christine was smarter than to rush in blindly. She waited, observing Robyn more intently than ever before. Every step, every word, every smile that was a little too practiced. She started noticing patterns, the times Robyn dodged, where she became the victim to deflect examination. Christine noticed the lies, now obvious, where previously she may have ignored them. And then the breaking point. Christine compiled the proof, storing the bank records in a folder. She began piecing together past business transactions Robyn had never mentioned, abrupt changes in finance decisions, unknown assets materializing out of thin air. It was all there, if you knew where to look. Robyn's $12 million hidden history wasn't secret account alone. It was a web, skillfully crafted to guard her while everyone else around her fell apart under financial pressure. When Christine finally spoke to Robyn, it wasn't in outrage, not at first. She placed the folder on the table, pushing the papers forward. Robyn's face went white as she read over the figures. For the first time, her professional cool broke. Christine didn't need to yell. The quiet between them was more stark than any fight. "You made us think we were poor," Christine whispered, her voice shaking not with terror, but with the pain of betrayal. "All those years, Robyn. You made me go without. You made my children go without, while you sat on $12 million. Robyn attempted to deny it. "Naturally," she stuttered, grasping at excuses, creating scenarios of misunderstanding, but the work had been done by Christine already. The papers, the transfers, the evidence. There was no denying it. The room resounded with the sound of truth Robyn couldn't hide anymore. But this was no longer a family issue, now that the truth was out. It could no longer be kept under wraps. The rumors became screams. Rumors spread like fire. If Robyn had 12 million stashed away, what else was she concealing? And how far would she go to cover up her meticulously spun reputation? Christine didn't only uncover the truth, she destroyed the illusion. The lady everybody thought they knew. The devoted wife, the struggling mum, the selfless partner. That was only the tip of the iceberg. Underneath was something more sinister, calculated, and controlled. As Christine turned away from that table, folder in hand, she knew things would never be the same again. This wasn't the end, Faye, it was just the start. Because when secrets this monumental are revealed, they don't just hurt relationships. They ruin reputations. They alter narratives. And they burn down everything in their wake. And Robyn's $12 million secret tale. It was to be the scandal that rocked everything to its very foundations. The aftermath of Christine's revelation did not arrive quietly. As soon as the truth had been pulled out of the darkness, it was irreversible. It began with quiet. The sort of quiet that weighs over a home like a thundercloud ready to explode. Robyn sidestepped Christine's gaze, withdrawing into her well-practiced script of innocence. But papers did not lie, nor did Christine's determination. Word traveled quicker than they had anticipated. Family members, used to years of allegations of favoritism and imbalance eternally traveling on their minds and lips, now saw proof that something worse was hidden behind the shadows. It was no longer about the money. It was about trust, betrayal, and the sharp feeling of realizing the ground they had been standing on was merely an illusion. The children saw it first. Questions crept through the cracks. Why did we say we couldn't afford things? Why did Mom have to suffer while Robyn had all this? Innocent voices. But piercing as daggers, Christine attempted to protect them. But the tale was no longer hers to suppress. Robyn's defense became desperate. She portrayed herself as misinterpreted, asserting the money wasn't solely hers, that it was attached to business deals, investments, even protection of the family. But all attempts were disingenuous in the face of figures. The records Christine had discovered weren't obtuse. Rather, they were specific, explicit, and incriminating. Transfers, secret accounts, offshore assets. A trail too evident to refute. When the broader circle of people started questioning, Robyn became defensive. She cried, she begged, she blamed others. But Christine held firm. She was tired of being silenced, tired of watching people get hurt while money stacked Robyn's coffers. For Christine, it wasn't about dollars. It was about dignity. It was about all the sacrifices that had been made in the name of family, while Robyn built her empire behind closed doors. It didn't take long for legal attention to be shifted towards the case. The $12 million was not a personal issue any longer. It was about taxes, legality, and betrayal buried in financial manipulation. A court hearing was inevitable, and Robyn, for the first time, appeared cornered. The image she had constructed, the ideal selfless partner, was threatening to come undone with the weight of evidence that trumped her tears. Christine didn't aspire to be the bad guy. She didn't want this tale. But once you see what is real, you can't make yourself forget. She readied herself for the fight before her, not for vengeance, but for responsibility. She was aware of the way the world operated. Silence cost money. Loyalty cost money. But not in this case, not when $12 million had been concealed in plain view, while others struggled with the suffocating weight of not enough. The courtroom was the platform no one could avoid. Papers were submitted, attorneys were summoned, and Robyn's $12 million secret wealth became a scandal that could not be held back. Christine entered that room with her head held high, folder in hand tightly. the same folder which had broken everything weeks ago. She was not holding papers. She was holding truth. And truth, when discovered, has the power to cut more deeply than any knife. Robyn sat across from her, her pale face darting eyes, as attorneys mumbled frantic plans. But the mood had changed. The judge wasn't concerned with staged tears or victim testimonies. What was important now was the facts, the figures, the inescapable evidence that Christine had brought out into the open. The judge's first words sliced through the courtroom like thunder. "We are here to establish the truth regarding the secret money. $12 million secret, unexplained, unaccounted for." The impact of the words resounded. Murmurs swept through the gallery. Christine's hands trembled, but she was filled with newfound strength. Finally, someone was saying in public what she had sensed in her heart. Robyn's tale wasn't only delicate. It was fabricated on falsehood. This was not family drama anymore. This was exposure. This was accountability. And as the first witnesses took the stand, Christine realized this wasn't so much about winning a battle. It was about altering the narrative forever. The atmosphere in the courtroom thickened every second. Everyone was aware that this was not a typical family quarrel. It was a case that would strip off the meticulously manufactured facade of a home millions once sat through on the tube. Christine sat quietly, her eyes locked on the judge, her mind rolling over the years she had suffered through. The sacrifices, the lonely nights where she had talked herself into believing things would improve. She wasn't here for vengeance. She was here for truth, and truth was going to testify. The first of these witnesses was a financial investigator who had gone over the records Christine had discovered. Unflappable and unruffled, he explained the chronology. Deposits into accounts never revealed to the family. Money transferred quietly from state to state. Business entities set up in names that barely traced back to Robyn, but always did, if you traced them far enough. $12 million, the detective said firmly. Structured, hidden, and hidden on purpose. These were not accidents. These were habits. The gallery gasped. Even the judge leaned forward, his eyes narrowing as he shuffled through the papers. Christine's heart was racing. This wasn't guesswork anymore. This was reality. Robyn's lawyers sprang up hastily, their protestations shrill. They said the funds were family matters, investments in joint ventures that would profit all parties. They accused Christine of treachery, of digging where she did not belong. But every alibi collapsed as further papers emerged. Business registrations signed by Robyn herself, deeds of property in her sole name, offshore accounts, hidden with nothing to do with family whatsoever. Christine observed Robyn intently. For years, Robyn had cried and pretended she was misunderstood, persecuted. But now, under oath, her eyes shifted, her hands shook. With every falsehood that she had spun, her web of deceit began to disintegrate. The next moment came harder than anyone anticipated. Christine was summoned to the stand. She moved deliberately, holding the folder that began it all. As she raised her hand and promised to tell the truth, she felt the crush of the past bearing down. Her tone was even, but trembling with emotion. "I didn't seek this out. I found it. And when I figured out what it was, I couldn't keep quiet. We made sacrifices. We did without. We were told we couldn't all along. $12 million was sequestered. That is not an error. That is betrayal." The judge nodded, his pen marking notes. The gallery leaned forward in unison. Robyn couldn't remain quiet anymore. She snapped, cutting Christine off in mid-sentence, her voice rising shrill. "It wasn't like that, you don't know." Her lawyer attempted to soothe her, but it was too late. The mask had cracked, and the court beheld the desperation of her outburst. Christine didn't even blink. "We know perfectly well," she replied gently. The judge's gavel came down, order restored. But everyone there was aware the tide had changed. Robyn's kingdom of secrets had cracked wide open, and no tantrum could mend it. The trial turned to hard proof. Tax statements, secret transactions, mysterious assets, all out in the open. Each paper another strike, another segment of the puzzle that confirmed Christine's discovery was more than suspicion, it was irrefutable fact. By evening, Robyn's tears had evaporated into a chilled silence. The courtroom hummed with murmurs. What did this do to the family, to their public reputation, to the empire founded on a now debunked tale? Christine went out that day with her head held high, not because the war was won, but because truth was no longer hers to bear alone. The world had witnessed it. The court had witnessed it, and Robyn could never hide behind deceit again. But Christine knew this was just the start. The verdict had not been handed down. The fallout was not yet out, and $12 million could create waves far beyond one courtroom. The storm had finally broken, but the path of devastation was only just beginning to materialize. The last day of the hearing came with tension so palpable it was nearly stifling. Cameras hummed outside, reporters elbowed each other out of the way, and hushed tones trailed behind Christine and Robyn as they walked into the courthouse. It wasn't merely a private scandal any longer. It had become public accountability. Christine sat serenely, her folded hands, but the beating of her heart. She had brought the truth into this courtroom, and today, judgment would either bury it or set it free forever. Robyn appeared different. The tightly constructed mask of composure had been discarded. Her hair was shoved back hurriedly, her makeup smeared. The weariness of nights spent sleepless stood in her eyes. She knew what was happening, but still held on to the final shreds of denial. The judge came in, his robes flowing behind him, as he held aloft the cumbersome stack of papers that had shaped the case. His voice was calm, firm, unmoving when he spoke. "This court has seen the evidence." He started, his eyes piercing the quiet. "The documents are consistent. The witness accounts corroborate each other. And the conclusion is inescapable. Robyn Brown hid $12 million of assets, intentionally concealed from her relatives, and in contravention of financial disclosure legislations." Gasps broke from the crowd. The words loomed in the air. Robyn's eyes flew shut as though the world itself had come crashing down on her shoulders. Christine's emotions welled over with a mixture she could barely hold back. Relief, sadness, vindication, all knotted together. She hadn't come here to ruin Robyn. She came for truth. And now, truth had spoken. The voice of the judge turned harder. "This fraud is not just a violation of trust, but of law. There will be restitution. Additional penalties will be taken into account. This court will not and cannot sanction such fraud." Every word was a hammer falling down upon the tale Robyn had been weaving for years. Her lawyers sat there in numb silence. No plan could redeem her now. Christine, again called to stand, was asked how she felt about the verdict. Her response was concise, but it hit home. It was about finally being heard. Tears welled up in the eyes of some in the gallery. The moment transcended the family drama. It was a symbol of justice, of truth prevailing, even against the most strenuous efforts to suppress it. Robyn, shaking, finally spoke, her voice cracking. "I did what I thought I had to do. I was protecting myself, protecting my children. I never meant to hurt anyone, but the courtroom wasn't swayed. The harm had been done, and apologies, however tearful, couldn't undo the cold, hard facts." The gavel fell one last time. "This court finds Robyn Brown guilty of financial fraud. The secret assets must be revealed and redistributed. Penalties will be determined in future hearings." Court adjourned. The report of the gavel resounded like thunder. Christine breathed out slowly, as if she'd been holding it since the beginning. She walked away, her feet firm, her shoulders straight. This was the release she'd battled for, not to shame, not to break, but to lastingly allow truth to remain where deception had dominated for so long. Outside, cameras blinked, questions were yelled, and photographers huddled to get every detail. Christine provided no lengthy comment, just a couple of words that capped it all. The truth matters, and now, it is out. Robyn, protected by her lawyers, steered clear of the lens. The once untouchable celebrity who had crafted her image over years with great care, now stepped through the crowd naked, her secrets exposed in the most public manner imaginable. For the family, the verdict was the close of an era. No longer could old storylines cut it. No longer could the truth be manipulated into a version people could stomach. This was true. This was raw, this was justice, and for Christine, it was triumph. Not in dollars, not in fame, but in understanding that lies can only survive in the shadows. When exposed to the light, they fall apart, and Robyn's $12 million secret had fallen apart utterly. The tale of deceit was at an end, but the legacy of integrity Christine uncovered would resound far beyond the walls of the courtroom.